Good evening and welcome back to Stroke Rounds. When one middle cerebral artery is occluded, the outcome is usually very bad unless the vessel is recanalized immediately. If that is the case with occlusion on one side, just imagine what will be the situation if both middle cerebral arteries are occluded. That need not be the case always. We'll discuss one case which was shared for discussion. 60 years hypertension on treatment, drooling of saliva from the left side of the face associated with mild difficulty in walking, has mild UMN facial paresis and left upper limb and lower limb minimal weakness. Stroke is essentially a disease affecting the blood vessels. So we'll try to read and analyze the angiogram first before going into an MR or the neuroimaging. Conventionally, this is the right and this is the left. It's as if the patient is lying on the gantry, so facing up. So left is the left side of the patient and right, this is the right side. Right internal carotid artery. Always it's better to follow one vessel so that the overlapping vessels or overlying vessels will not create confusion. Try to follow one vessel that will make reading or evaluation easier. Right internal carotid artery, cervical segment, petrous segment, and divides into middle cerebral artery, anterior cerebral artery, continuing as A2. The middle cerebral artery, the distal branches are very faintly seen. There seems to be narrowing and occlusion. There is irregularity here also. There is minimal narrowing of the A2 on this side. But mind you, MR always overestimates. MR angio always overestimates. So, the left internal carotid artery here divides into anterior cerebral artery, M2, M1, middle cerebral artery. Here also there is diffuse narrowing and the distal branches are not seen clearly. Coming to the posterior circulation, this is the vertebral artery, the distal vertebral artery, and you can see very clearly the vertebral artery is of very, very narrow caliber here, and there is a significant narrowing of the distal vertebral artery. The opposite vertebral artery is very small and it's not seen clearly. Probably it is hypoplastic or very small. Basilar artery looks normal, continues as the posterior cerebral artery, which comes like this. We can see it going behind the middle cerebral artery and coming like this. So this is the posterior cerebral artery on this side. On the opposite side, the posterior cerebral artery looks very small, it's not seen clearly, but one can see the posterior cerebral artery clearly here distally. So that means the posterior cerebral artery is not occluded, but it is getting its supply from somewhere else. Somewhere else means it has to be from the carotid. So here one can see the posterior communicating artery. This is what is called fetal posterior communicating artery. So this is the posterior communicating artery solely supplying the posterior cerebral artery. Coming to the lateral view of the angiogram, we can see that the vertebral artery is very small. There is a significant narrowing. Basilar artery is also normal. Posterior cerebral artery is normal. There is minimal narrowing here. One can see the very large posterior communicating artery. Carotid looks normal. There is mild irregularities of the anterior cerebral artery, but both middle cerebral arteries are not seen properly. Coming to this is a cervical carotid. There is no narrowing. What is seen laterally is internal carotid and this is the external carotid. This is the internal carotid artery. It takes a loop here and comes down like this. Here there is a loop. It's not a loop, there is a curve here, but there is no stenosis of the cervical carotid. Vertebral artery continues like this. As we discussed, there is a narrowing of the vertebral artery. Arch of aorta, so we'll go back to the previous slide and see. This is the arch. You can see the right brachiocephalic trunk, subclavian artery, common carotid artery. The left common carotid artery arising directly from the arch of aorta, and the left vertebral artery arising from the left subclavian and the right vertebral artery arising from the right subclavian. So with this, the conclusion of the MR angio is there is bilateral occlusion of the middle cerebral artery beyond M1 segment. There is significant narrowing of the vertebral artery. So everything put together looks like a case of severe intracranial atherosclerosis. Now let's look at the postmortem. Postmortem means this is what the damage has been created by the vascular occlusions. The damage seems to be very, very minimal. So there is a subcortical infarct here, well-defined infarct in this region. There are no cortical infarcts in spite of the significant vessel narrowing. So the questions that needs to be answered are three. One, DSA, is it a must for this patient? What is the optimal treatment regimen? And in the future, if this patient presents with hyperacute stroke in the MCA territory, will mechanical thrombectomy be successful? We'll just try to answer the first question today and leave the rest for the days to come. Is DSA must? Before going into that, let's see how the middle cerebral artery is getting its blood in this particular situation. So when the middle cerebral artery is occluded, the anterior cerebral artery through the pile collaterals tries to compensate and gives blood to the middle cerebral artery. So this is how it works. The middle cerebral artery is occluded. The anterior cerebral artery through the pile branches gives collateral supply. The posterior cerebral artery also gives blood to the supply. So if the collaterals are good, the endothelium is functioning normally, the collaterals are good, the infarct size will be small. But when the collaterals fail, the infarct will be very large. It is as simple as when the collaterals are good, the whole zone will be supplied very well. But when the collaterals are not good, the areas in the border zone will get infarcted. This comes to the concept of what is called the border zone infarcts or watershed infarcts. What is seen in blue is the external watershed infarcts, and what is seen in red is the internal watershed infarcts. Here we will just concentrate on the internal watershed infarcts between the lenticulostriate arteries and the middle cerebral arteries. This is one picture one should spend some time on. This is not usually discussed in the stroke forums. The pile vessels are three types. One is the intracortical vessels which supplies the cortex, subcortical vessels will supply below the cortex, and the medullary long longitudinal branches which go deep into the brain. So there are the insular branches also which is going deep. Then there are the basal perforators, which are the lenticulostriate branches, which are medial, lateral, medial, and the Huebner's artery. Another picture is showing the same intracortical, subcortical, medullary branches and the basal perforators. So these are the different types of perforators, which I think we've made it very clear. So when there is a watershed infarct, there are four types of infarcts that can occur in the subcortical region. One, when there is a chronic hypertension. Along with episodes of orthostatic hypotension, there is what is called a ischemic leukoariosis, which is the type 1 or first one type. So this area, which is the area which is in the watershed zone, becomes infarcted when there is a chronic hypertension, when the small vessels becomes narrow. The second is when the linear medullary arteries, which are longitudinal vessels, get occluded, which produces medullary artery infarcts. And third is when there is an ICA occlusion or an M1 occlusion, there is a typical watershed infarct which happens in this area, which can be deep or superficial. And the last, when there is one embolic occlusion, one of the pile vessels, whether it's an intracortical, subcortical vessel, there is a large territorial infarct. That is usually an embolic phenomenon. Now coming back, is DSA a must for this patient? So with this knowledge, let's try to look at what are the advantages of DSA. We'll continue with the discussion tomorrow. Thank you. Please let know your comments, thoughts, and your suggestions to how to improve this academic initiative. Thank you.